You are listening to the Not Another Sports podcast. Here are your hosts, David and Jason.
Welcome to the Not Another Sports podcast, episode 7. This is the home of sports talk for everyone. I'm David.
I'm Jason.
Welcome aboard. Now, once again, I know we say this every episode, but hey, I just want to give a big thank you to everybody. I mean, it's just something we say every episode because it's just the amount of support that we get is amazing.
Yeah, we're getting more reviews on Apple Podcasts. We're both getting more messages privately. Put that stuff on the Facebook page. Seriously, make it public. The more you guys get involved, the better it is for all of us.
Absolutely. This way, just interaction between everybody. This way we get ideas that we may not have thought of, hear comments, ideas, comments, what you guys think are, might be good for the show for us to take a look at, but, just one big thank you to all of you.
And we gave a shout out to him last episode, Matt Derline. We referenced him because he's a big Bruins fan. We were talking about the Bruins player whose name we couldn't think of off the top of our head. It was Gregory Campbell. It was his fibula that was broken.
Yeah, I knew something broke. Hey, I got the last name right.
So, Matt, thank you very much for coming through for us on getting that information correct.
Oh, absolutely, yes, thank you. Because we tried to get as accurate as we can. Sometimes we mess up. We're human.
Right.
We can do the best we can with our memory. How old we were shot. But yes, once again, thank you all for your support and hope to hear you. We always hope to hear from you guys. So your fantasy football, just like it seems like an opening topic for us.
So, yeah, it's shit in the bed like 2020. Let me tell you.
That good, huh?
It's a recurring theme this season for me. It's just injuries upon injuries. Look, I've been doing fantasy football every season for almost a decade now. This is the worst season I've had, and most seasons I'm in contention. I'm either in first, second, or third place in most leagues. So I really shouldn't complain about having one really bad season, especially when it's a bad season in general, even in the NFL. So yeah, I don't really have a lot of complaints about having a bad season. It's frustrating on my end because with everyone being injured, I don't have any options, and the options are out there on the waiver wire are just awful. So
yeah, between injuries and COVID, it's
yeah, you're just trying to make chicken salad out of chicken shit. So
pretty much. The Steelers had X amount of players already get test positive this last week.
Yeah, one of them being my quarterback in my 2-quarterback league.
Oh, so yeah, you're good to go. Now, only if you could get points for a COVID player, then I think you'd win.
Yeah, maybe this year. But the one guy I know, Brad from the Baseball Together podcast. I'm an admin in their 9+us VIP group. He also plays fantasy football, and we talk about it. And he said he wants to do an anti-fantasy football league where you get points by. So basically, the things that would normally get you negative points would actually give you points.
Nice.
And the things that would give you points would give you negative points.
Nice. That would be funny. So an injury would be a good thing.
Yeah, your quarterback gets sacked 7 times. Oh, wow, you're doing great today. Matt Stafford throws 3 picks in a game like he normally does. Wow, you're like winning your game by big points. But
you're almost hoping you get sacked.
Okay, so there's
Get him. Yeah, he got sight. He got injured. I win.
There's a friend of mine who makes fun of me almost every season because somehow I end up with Matt Stafford, whether I plan to draft him or not. Not that Matt Stafford's a terrible quarterback. He's better than average, I would say. God, there's some Lions fans who are probably listening who want to kill me right now. But I always end up with him on my team, probably ever since I've played fantasy football and he's been playing the NFL. I've had him on my fantasy team, either as a backup or a starting quarterback. He has games where he can be really great, and he has games where he can be just awful. So,
Dude, that's any quarterback anymore. I mean, dude, look at Tom Brady last week. He just fell apart.
I mean, we can go down this road.
Hey, we go down the road. Hey, why not?
Honestly, I think we're starting to see the reality of Tom Brady without being in the Bill Belichick system.
Well, not just that. I mean, normally, now this goes for any sport, whether you go from baseball, football, or hockey. Normally, when a player moves to another team, it's the end of their era. It's the end of their time in the league. I mean, look at Martin Brodeur of the Devils. He moved to St. Louis. He didn't go there long.
Michael Jordan going to the Washington Wizards.
Same thing. Brady moving to Tampa. Same thing. You know, it just seems like that the older the player gets, the more, like, when they change teams, that's when you know their career is going to end. I mean, sometimes it's a good thing. Look at Ray Bork. He goes from Boston to Colorado, wins a cup. You know,
well, I mean, you're a Niners fan, so you remember when Joe Montana went to the Chiefs.
The Chiefs, yep. Rice went to the Raiders.
So I mean,
yeah, it's just the way it is. You know, it's just it just seemed like that's the trend for the quarterbacks, or just
right.
any play. You know, just any top player. It seems like when they move to another team, that they're just almost done. They're going to spend another year or two in the league and call it.
Yeah,
That just seems to be the trend. Maybe Tom Brady is a different player than that. Who knows?
I don't fault anyone for cashing in on the career they built, even if it's late in their career. But I mean, Brady's whole reason for leaving was, I don't have any options in New England, and he has two really great options in Tampa Bay when they're healthy, and we're seeing the realities, I think, of him being outside of that Patriot system.
Well, think of this though. I mean, he's a Hall of Famer no matter how you look at it. Despite the scandals, despite the stuff, he's a Hall of Famer. Yeah, but if you think about it, when a player moves like we just said, Brodeur went from the Devils to the Blues. He's in the Hall of Fame. Montana to Kansas City, Hall of Fame. It just seems like that's just the trend right there.
Well, I mean,
it's the top players when they move closer to the end of their career. That's when they're out, and sometimes they're Hall of Famers.
Well, and you got to think, I mean, they're not going in the Hall of Fame for that final season wherever. They're going in the Hall of Fame for
what they built,
their overall accomplishments in the game, and really those prime years with the team that they made their name with. So, and look, not taking anything away from Tom Brady. I mean, I've mentioned this before. I'm not a huge Tom Brady fan by any means, but I respect the career he's built for himself because he was a long shot. No one expected him to be what he became. Late round draft pick, a backup quarterback to Drew Bledsoe. He earned the career he had, and good for him,
Oh, absolutely. I mean, not to take anything away from him. It's just, he built a good career. I mean, right now we're seeing it's basically a shootout between Drew Brees and Tom Brady is what we're seeing right now for the NFL league leaders in touchdown passes. And what separates both of them? 3. That's the number. 3. Both are still active. So anytime that these two teams get together, it's a shootout.
And I mean, let's not and these are both very competitive guys. So,
Well, competitive, that's an understatement. I mean,
this might
they're
be
beyond competitive.
This might be the big non-COVID topic for the season. So,
Yay! But no, I mean, every time these two every time the Saints and the Buccaneers now get together, it's Brady versus Breeze, and it's always been a shootout. I mean, Drew Brees got the best of Brady last game, but it's just, I just feel like Tom Brady's going to spend another few more years in the league and then call it. I mean, he already has 6 rings.
yeah.
I mean, he already made his statement. He has nothing to prove. I mean, he's already one of the best.
Yeah, I don't see him Brett Favre-ing things, so.
No.
I think
I'm going to retire, come back. Retire, come back.
I think
retire, come
I
back.
think when Brady retires, he's going to be retired for good. I mean, he might get an analyst job, but I think when he retires, he's going to retire. So speaking of football and analysts, so I have a subscription to The Athletic through my mobile company. They offered a subscription for users of T-Mobile. They offered the users a free subscription to certain things, and one of them was The Athletic. So I joined The Athletic, and they had a survey for subscribers to fill out on the NFL broadcast season, your thoughts on the broadcasting of the games and your favorite commentators and so forth. And for a guy who got a ton of flack as a quarterback, Tony Romo is a really good commentator.
Yeah, he is.
He is exceptional. Some players
are. Some players that turn to an analyst, they excel more at being an analyst than they do at a player.
Yeah. He was, I mean, I prefer watching the CBS games simply because I enjoy hearing him as an analyst.
And he's not a bias. He's more of an overall. He's not looking at just like how some announcers, you can hear them being biased towards one team.
Troy Aikman.
I wonder what team he goes for. Anyways.
No, I like how Romo breaks down the game. I like how he explains the game. There are some analysts who kind of talk over people's heads, and he's not one of them. And it makes for an enjoyable game.
Oh, it does. It does make for a good game to actually listen to. Because some commentators are so annoying. They're just Joe Buck. Anyways. But yeah, he is a good analyst. He's definitely.
Now, I'll say this,
one of the good ones.
I'm a longtime Joe Buck hater.
Really?
But I have to admit, when he was on the Stern Show a few years back, I gained a level of respect for him. Just him talking about, he was calling games while his dad was dying in the hospital, and he'd go right from the game to the hospital. No matter what city he was in, he would go right to the hospital and be with his dad. And he was there when his dad passed away, and that gave me a whole new respect for him. And he was very funny on the show, which he's a very dry play-by-play guy. So again, I have a level of respect for him that I didn't have before. That doesn't mean he doesn't annoy me as a play-by-play guy, but I'm not an outright hater of him as I used to be.
Gotcha. I'm just glad it doesn't do hockey.
Well, if Fox does hockey again, I'm sure he'll be there. He does all their.
Probably.
I don't know if he does NASCAR, but I think he does pretty much everything else.
He's taking a left turn. Really?
But
yeah, let's move into period 1.
That was the pregame.
Right? So basically, an update from last week's starting of the NHL season. There was a time where it was proposed that the NHL would shut down for the 2021 season. Now, my thoughts are mixed on that. I feel that for all the hockey fans out there, they want hockey. They want to see it. I'm not sure what the AHL is doing, the American Hockey League, but the NHL was talking about it. It was proposed. My thought is, I would be against it as a fan, but I wouldn't be against it because of player safety. Because being there is no bubble now, what would they, how would they move about, to move about being safe for the players?
Right. One of the downsides of the NHL, and it's just their business setup
Gary Bettman.
is is that it, unlike other leagues, their revenue's ticket driven. They don't have.
Yes.
I mean, they have contracts with NBC, obviously, in NBC Sports, but they aren't these huge multi-million, billion, almost $1 billion deals like the NFL and MLB have. So it's very much still a ticket-driven revenue source. So I understood when me and you had privately talked about this, why the theory was that they might shut down for the season, because they're not recouping that money from the tickets. I mean, they have their advertising deals and they have their TV contracts, but
That's not enough
for the NHL and their current business model. No, it's not enough. And like we talked about last episode, it's not like the NFL and MLB where they're outside and open air and people can safely sit socially distanced. You're going to be in an arena, closed air, not a lot of circulation. Even if you're socially distanced, still not a great setup for hockey. But now it's something we've talked about with the NBA, and I know that they've charged, and just even though I don't watch a lot of the current wrestling product, the WWE is doing something similar where fans can pay to be part of the virtual fan experience, and they can watch the game from their computer and be seen in the background in the audience. So that is I would say that should be an option.
I mean, yeah, sure. I'm going to be paid to sit at my computer to watch a game instead of I can watch it on my TV. It's a double-edged sword for that. I mean, unless they do let's say the Phillies. I'm just going to use them just because we're both Philly fans and we both know what they did with the cardboard cutouts to charity. Maybe that's something the NHL can look at to doing for maybe part of the ticketing program, to where half the money goes towards the normal profit, the other half goes towards charity. Maybe they can do something like that. Who knows?
Maybe.
But to me, though, if you sit down in front of your computer to watch a game, so you can see yourself on, like, let's say whatever, a big screen TV at the arena, I don't know. I
think you're going to get the most diehard of the diehards doing that, though. And I mean, just doing research on the NHL's what's the term I want to use? Not population. The skew of the fans. NHL fans tend to skew at a income wise higher than other leagues, specifically the NFL. So NHL fans tend to be higher dollar earners than most leagues. So you're talking about people who do have the money and would probably be willing to spend it for a bunch of games to be seen in the background with their Flyers jersey, with their Devils jersey, with their Bruins jersey, Avalanche jersey, supporting their team. So I think it's definitely an option to look into as far as generating revenue and having it look like there's fans in the seats.
Yeah, I mean, but the thing is, though, are you going to be able to do it right? Like, are you going to be able to do it like the NBA did to make it look like, what was it, NBA Jam? Are you going to be able to make it look like that? But I don't know. I mean, yeah, you are right where it's not cheap to go to an NHL game, even in the nosebleed seats. Definitely not cheap for an NHL game. But I know, but you are right, though. I know people will spend the money for it. And I mean, if it can be done, the way, like the NBA, pro wrestling, they might be able to do that. But yeah, you're right, though. The diehards will be able to spend the money to do it. Now, don't get me wrong, if the price is right, maybe that is an option to do. Maybe put it on the computer, maybe watch it on the TV.
Yeah. I mean,
I don't know.
I think the guidelines are pretty strict. Obviously, you can't curse or have foul language in the background, or have a sign that says something, foul.
Well, the Flyers are out. Philadelphia's out.
Thank God Sean Avery's not playing. You'd see a bunch of people with sloppy second signs.
Right?
Boy, that's a deep cut for some people.
But that was a comment that, holy crap, that was a wow comment. Anybody who doesn't know what we're talking about with that, look up Sean Avery interview, and I guarantee you that's going to be one of them, where it was a locker room interview. Oh, that was bad.
I'll find a link and post it on Facebook. So anyone listening, I'll find it for you.
And I think though, like right after that, he was moved. I forget who he was with. I think it was the Stars at the time. He was moved right away after that. They didn't keep him long.
Well, he had a lot of issues to begin with. He was a bit of a head case, and that's putting it mildly.
Yeah, you think?
But I think it's an option they should look into. Whether it's good or bad, they should at least look into it.
Yeah, it is an option. I mean, that, and also the cutouts. I mean, look what the Phillies did with the cutouts. Look at the response they got.
Right.
They got a good response out of that. So maybe that's something that the NHL can look at into creating. But like you said, a lot of the ticket revenue, a lot of the revenue comes from the tickets, comes from the fans in the crowd. So who knows?
Those $14 chicken fingers that you buy at the at the arena to eat while you're watching the game
for a small beer.
Yeah.
I think that one of the best arenas that was priced right for a family was in Reading. But now this is probably for other arenas, like for, let's say, the ECHL, the East Coast Hockey League. Since we're close to Reading, we're about an hour from Reading?
Give or take, yeah.
So, and their team is the Reading Royals. I went to a couple of games, and the food was actually decently priced for what you were going for.
Yeah, I think we're just calling back all kinds of past episodes. I think,
right.
I think the lower down you go in the class ladder, as far as minor leagues go, it's going to get more affordable as a family. Because you go to a single A baseball game or an ECHL game, which I would say is probably the equivalent maybe to minor league baseball, to like single A or double A. Yeah, things are going to be affordably priced. You can take a family for four and spend under $100 to, eat and watch the game. And really that's a great thing, because you're getting those guys that experience in front of a lively crowd, so that, they at least they're mentally ready for when they go up to the big leagues.
Oh yeah. But I mean, I know the NHL is definitely not cheap with anything, with food or drinks or.
Yeah, and we went to 2 games in 1 week when I was working in a deli. So.
Hey, trust me, I was in the same boat. I mean, I went to 3 in 2 weeks. Went to Philly, then Jersey, then Washington. I think you went to Jersey, then Washington with us?
Yep, Jersey and Washington, and boy, we're deviation time, side story time. We were at Washington. We were in New Jersey, and they were giving away in between periods Hershey Park tickets. So where David and I live, we can easily get to Hershey Park. But I would say for most locals, you have a love-hate relationship with Hershey Park, because you remember when it was cheap, and it's not anymore because they're trying to be like the East Coast Disneyland.
The only thing cheap about Hershey Park is going to Chocolate World.
If right. Oh, so off topic. Anyone who's listening who's never thought to come to Pennsylvania or hasn't come to Pennsylvania, if you do and you're in the Harrisburg Hershey area, go to Chocolate World. It's pretty fun, and it
is. That's what makes it fun. Plus, also the kids will love it.
They don't get full bars anymore.
Did.
But because we know about Hershey Park, we were booing when they were giving away those
Right?
tickets.
It's not worth it. It's not worth it. Oh, that was great.
But yeah, let's get back to the topic at hand. The
Oh, we
possible
never get off
delay.
topic.
The
We never get off topic. What are you talking about?
the possible delayed or non-existent NHL season.
I mean, I don't know. Part of me wants to see hockey. A big part of me does, just because of how much of a fan I am. I mean, and you know me, I'll watch any game. It doesn't matter if I'm a fan of the team or not. I mean, how many times have we stayed up till 2 a.m. to watch a game?
Yeah. Oh, plenty of times.
Exactly. So for me, I would love for hockey to be back as soon as possible. But in all reality, I'd rather see the players safe to perform in a later time. Like, let's say Ovechkin chasing Gretzky. I'd rather see him be able to play at his best rather than take the risk of COVID.
Right.
Just because he's chasing that all-time record that you may never see again of anybody trying to chase Gretzky. I mean, that record has stood the test of time. And to see somebody actually looking to challenge him. I mean, I know there's a lot of people out there who hate Ovechkin. I mean, don't get me wrong. We're not that big of Crosby fans. Go figure. But at least we can see history, see a player chasing a great player in time, and I don't want to see something stupid happen to where he can't do that. Like when Crosby went out against the Capitals during the one Winter Classic. I'm not a big Crosby fan at all. You know that. But I hate to see a player go out because of something, accidental or something, anything. I hate to see a good player go out because of what it can do to the game.
Well, I mean, and that ties back to when we talked about Ice Guardians. We mentioned about Crosby, about how, he's had, if he had the protection that guys had back in the 90s and 80s, what would his career look like compared to with all the times he's had to go out because of concussions? I mean, you don't have to like him to respect the talent he has, and you don't have to like him to not, wonder if he didn't have the issues he's had with concussions, what his career would be like. So I understand completely what you're saying. Now, it's something you had mentioned earlier off air, before recording, about hub cities, and that they're looking at playing in hub cities, or having people set up in hub cities. That's a heck of an idea. And it's actually something you had suggested with when we talked about MLB.
Yeah. I mean, it's a good idea because of where it's going to be at, but the more and more you think about it, the more and more you look at it, you're taking away these players from their families, which can also play a part on them. Because if they're away from their families, I mean, don't get me wrong, during the bubbles, during the playoffs for the NHL and NBA, that did probably play a huge part on their lives, on their mentality.
Yeah, definitely.
So if you do that, I mean, the only people who would benefit from those hubs are the people who play in those hubs, like their home cities. Like, let's say Pennsylvania has Philly. Okay, Philly's going to benefit, Pittsburgh's not. So anybody who, any of the Pittsburgh Penguins players, they're going to be away from their families for X amount of time. So it's going to be one of those things where it's pretty much going to turn into a mental game.
So this is what I'm seeing on the NHL's website. You would be in a situation where teams would travel in, play a bunch of games over a 2-week period, and then be able to go home and spend time with their families in their own local practice facilities for a week, and then cycle through the season that way. So that's not a terrible idea. They still get to go home and be with their families at the end of that 2-week series of games. But now, I mean, obviously this is all still talk, but are we going to have 3 or 4 teams come into one city, play a bunch of games against each other, go home, go to practice. Next week, go to the next city, bunch of teams, go into the next city, play a bunch of games, repeat cycle? Or is it just going to be like, for 2 weeks, we're going to see the Flyers and the Pens play each other. Go home. 2 weeks later, we're going to see the Flyers and the Devils play each other. Go home. You know what I mean?
Yeah, pretty much. Are they going to play region? Are they going to play all the teams in, let's say, the New England region? So
Right.
basically, like you just said, is it going to be Flyers, Penguins, Flyers, Devils, Bruins, New York, Bruins, or well, I should say not New York, but Bruins, Rangers, Bruins, Islanders, things like that. Is it going to be like that? Is the same team going to be over and over again? I mean, it's going to be repetitious, and it's going to might turn a lot of fans off because you're seeing the same the same teams over and over and over. And I know as a hockey fan, I love to watch different players throughout the league, not just division, not just conference, but the league. Like, you go, you love watching. I know Fleury was he used to be a Penguin. Now he's a Las Vegas Knight. So, the Golden Knights. So watching a goalie like that play, from time to time is great, but watching him constantly over and over and over and over, it's just going to be like one of those things. It's like, really?
Yeah. So what I'm wondering, and looking at the layouts of the divisions, I mean, are we looking at a potential where, the Metropolitan Division is set up in one city for 2 weeks, and those teams play each other? Let's say they, just throwing it out there, they play at Madison Square Garden for 2 weeks, and every night it's a different game with a different team for 2 weeks. Those guys go home. The next week they all go to Philly for 2 weeks, and they play in Philly for 2 weeks. Is that what we're looking at, you think? Or
it's hard to say because it's one of those things to where, one, it's all talk right now, so you don't know.
right.
But also look at Canada. I mean, there's not just one or two teams in Canada. There's multiple teams. So
In
how
multiple
are they
divisions.
Exactly. So how are they going to do that? You got Montreal, Vancouver, Calgary, just to say names, but
Unless you do a one season realignment.
well, they were looking at that. They were looking at doing a Canadian division. So how is that going to work though? If you want to, I mean, because a lot of times when you see teams, have you ever seen the ticket prices fluctuate between like who's playing where? Like if you get, let's say, the Penguins and they go to, let's say, Arizona. If you get, let's say, Arizona and San Jose, ticket prices may not be that high. Let's say they're $60 a ticket. You get Penguins and Arizona, that ticket price is going to go up because of the Penguins, because of who's
Right.
on. Like, people want to see Crosby. Same thing with Ovechkin. Same thing with, other high-end players. So how is that going to play? Because that's going to, that could kill revenue too.
Yeah, you're right. I mean,
Because because how many times did we look at tickets for games just because of who they're playing, and you could see the fluctuation in prices. Even in baseball, the same thing. Let's say back in the day when you have a Mark McGwire before the whole, before the whole controversy.
oh, big head, little
scandal,
nads.
pretty much. uh, big bat, little balls.
So I mean, we're looking at
who knows? Who knows what's going to happen?
being hypothetical here, and we do that a lot.
Really?
Let's say hypothetically you move to a Canadian division. You keep the Metropolitan Division. You keep the Atlantic Division and the Pacific Division. Really, actually, let's scrap that. Let's make an Eastern Division, a Central Division, a Pacific Division, and a Canadian Division. That still gives you 4 divisions. That gives you 4 division champions. And really, that keeps everyone kind of stuck in their hub until playoff time.
Well, here's the thing, though. I mean, there's not that many Canadian teams to begin with. I mean, the Metropolitan has no Canadian teams in it.
There's 7 Canadian teams.
So, yeah, I mean, just in the East alone, there's what, 1, 2, 3 just in the East: Ottawa, Montreal, and Toronto. So, I mean, unless you do a whole, but where would you put that division?
So,
I mean, where would
looking
you
at
put it?
so the Pacific Division only has 4 American teams, and the Central Division only has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 American teams. So you can easily pull the Red Wings into the Central. You could probably move the Avalanche into the Pacific. I mean, you can definitely move team. I would say we even put the Blue Jackets in Central for that season.
Yeah, it looks like the Pacific actually has 5 teams: Vegas,
Nope, I missed one.
Arizona. Yeah, Vegas, Arizona, Anaheim, Kings, and San Jose. So, I mean, but then you go to Central, there's no Canadian teams in there.
Oh, the Jets.
Oh, that's right, the Jets are in there. Ooh, the Jets.
But what I'm saying is you could do a slight realignment and make that work.
I don't know how. I mean, who knows how they're going to do it, because you're not going to see a U.S. team go to Canada
No,
because
not
of
right
that,
now.
because of that travel restriction, and vice versa. You're not going to see a Canadian team go to, go play any U.S. team. So what are the Canadian teams going to do? Just play each other constantly, cycling to the playoffs?
Probably, yeah.
Even when the playoffs hits, are they going to go back to a bubble, or are they going to do?
I think
Who knows?
for the leagues like MLB and NBA and the NHL, where they have these best of series for the playoffs, I think you need to go to a bubble.
Oh yeah, well we all know what like we discussed how many topics before.
Oh,
We
the
know it
horse is
works.
dead.
Yeah, but we're gonna revive it. I mean, this is the only thing that Gary Bettman has done great, because I know he's been pushing to. I mean, for pretty much for where this article came from when we first saw it, was the NHL owners were looking to do a shutdown of the season because of COVID, just to kind of keep the players safe, which is understandable. And Bettman doesn't want to do that. He wants to keep it going. Basically, it turns into a greed thing: the money, the aspect, all the revenue. But for player safety, I mean, who knows what the NHLPA, the National Hockey Players Association, is actually thinking of this as well.
Right.
Because they have a big thing because of the contracts they have with the actual NHL, with Bettman. So it's, like I said before, part of me wants to have an NHL season, but part of me wants to see players safe to continue their historic runs, like Ovechkin chasing Gretzky.
I would say with how well Bettman handled things last season,
That's his only thing he did right.
I would definitely say I'm inclined to think that whatever they decide to do, he has the right intention in mind, because of how spectacularly well the NHL handled COVID.
Yeah, I mean, with the bubbles, that definitely did help. That he definitely did something right for once.
Let's call it as it is. Out of the big four, only 2 leagues did it right and had no issues, and that was the NBA and the NHL. So,
oh yeah,
I would say if I'm going to trust any league commissioner, president, what have you, it's going to be either Adam Silver, or Gary Bettman.
Yeah, trust Bettman. Yeah, that's that's something you really don't hear too often. That's definitely something you don't hear too often, for sure. But yeah, I mean, they did the bubble; it worked. But who knows how they're going to do this season? I mean, they all were doing about the hubs, but you have league owners, or I'm sorry, team owners saying they want to suspend. They don't want to do a season, but you got Bettman who says, "Yeah, we're going to have one."
I think they'll figure something out. I mean, we still have time.
Oh yeah, I mean, from what I've been reading, they've been still looking at January 1st. No All-Star game, no Winter Classic, so it's gonna be what's gonna be. I mean, who knows what's gonna happen?
Yeah, I mean, I think they'll figure it out, and time will tell. I mean, they got a couple more months yet, and we can figure it out by Christmas. So there's
Yeah,
time.
I mean, hey, as long as there's no scandals or anything, as long as there's
I guess that means we're moving to period 2 here.
what NHL had its thing of scandals already. I mean, look at Rick Tocchet and his whole gambling thing. I mean, hell, Gretzky's wife was supposedly in on it.
So let's talk
Yep.
about
Yep, period 2. Here we go.
So obviously we're still dealing with the Astros fallout, and AJ Hinch, former Astros manager, was hired by the Detroit Tigers to take over the reins as manager for next season. And surprisingly to no one, Alex Cora was rehired by the Boston Red Sox to manage the team next season, who was the assistant to AJ Hinch down in Houston during the sign stealing scandal. I don't think they should have jobs in baseball. I think MLB's current commissioner dropped the ball on this one. I think the Astros should have had huge fines levied at them. I think Hinch and Cora should never be able to manage again, especially when there were issues with sign stealing with the Red Sox when Cora took over the first time as the Red Sox manager. There's too much bad voodoo with those guys. And the fact that they're allowed to still manage kind of chaps my ass as a baseball fan. Because Pete Rose still is not allowed to be involved with baseball.
Yeah, I mean, pretty much anybody who cheats in baseball for sure needs to be gone. I mean, to me, baseball is one of those games to where when you're a kid, that's what you always want to watch. You know, a lot of times that's what you see on TV. That's what you play, Little League Baseball and all that. And to see these players that you look up to cheat, I mean, look at all the steroid scandals that we had. I mean, that's one of the biggest things in baseball was always the steroid scandals. But I know with the sign stealing, yeah, no, I agree that, those two guys should not be in baseball. I mean, you're stealing signs. I mean, baseball is one of the biggest ones for that. I mean, yeah, don't get me wrong. You had the NFL when the Patriots were stealing, the so-called, what was it? The recording of the players' calls.
Yeah, the playbooks. They were getting footage of the playbooks.
But no, I agree that they should not be playing. But Pete Rose, I mean, he gambled.
First off, I mean, baseball has a rich history of, to put it politely, one-upsmanship, trying to turn the game into your favor by any means necessary. Where, pitchers were putting stuff on the ball to give it a little extra rotation or less rotation, or they were stealing signs years ago. They just weren't. They were a little more covert, and they weren't as obvious about it. And even
like banging on a trash can,
drumming on a street lamp. Oh man, that's a really deep Nickelodeon cut for anyone listening. I'll be impressed if anyone gets that. But I mean, even in the early 20th century, in the 1900s, managers were gambling on their teams. I mean, it wasn't Pete Rose money, but it was. I mean, they were putting $400 on their own teams to win. It's just the baseball has an interesting history. If you ever really want to deep dive into it, go ahead. I definitely would say, as a starter, watch Ken Burns' baseball documentary, all 10 seasons of it, or 10 innings of it, I should say. So Pete gambled on baseball as a baseball manager, and even gambled on his own team, the Cincinnati Reds, when he was managing them.
To win, though. It wasn't like for them to lose, it was for them to win.
Yeah. So I mean, it was well known by the 1970s amongst his teammates that Pete had a gambling problem. I think Pete has a gambling problem because Pete is a constant competitor.
Oh, yeah, well, Well, look
think
what he did during the All-Star game. He ran over the catcher during the
poor Ray
All-Star
Fosse.
game.
Ray Fosse. Ugh.
It just shows how much of a competitor he is when he, does that.
Yeah, I mean, he doesn't know how to turn it off. That's just how hardcore of a competitor he is. I think gambling was just another extension of that personality he has. But his lifetime ban, in retrospect, compared to the things we've seen, like the Maguires and the Sosas and the effing Barry Bondses with juicing themselves up to hell to try and break records, and now with the sign stealing from the Astros to win a World Series, it's tame. To me, it's tame. There's no reason why Pete Rose should not be in the Hall of Fame as the hits leader. He should be allowed in there. They need to look at his ban comparatively to what we're dealing with now and what guys have gotten away with in the last 25 years. There's no reason Pete should not be in the Hall of Fame and should not be allowed involved with baseball. I'm not saying he needs to manage again, but let's not shun him anymore when you've seen what we've seen.
Well, there's a lot of black guys in baseball right now between the steroids and the steal calling. I mean, there's been a lot of black guys that baseball has been given. There's a lot of them, and to answer, how many players do you think are gambling right now? When even during the World Series, even during all that, how many players do you think were gambling? I mean, they're not going to they're not. If they did it right, you're not going to be caught.
I think a lot more of them are playing Fortnite now.
True.
But I think at this point, especially with the slap on the wrist that the Astros got.
Slap on the wrist? You mean they got, they got
and the fact that
they got a little less than that.
And the fact that Hinch and Cora are going to be managing again. MLB needs to re-examine Pete Rose's ban. It just in comparison, I think.
Well, how would you examine that? Would you examine it as the Pete Rose ban from baseball, or examine it as, what, we were harsh on him. We got to get these guys out because of what they did, or okay, we did a slap on the wrist for them because they stole signs during games that changed. Basically, you're cheated during the game. He didn't cheat; he just gambled. So we should let him.
I think after
play him. So it's like, how do you look at that? Like, how do you balance that?
I think after 31 years, and it's crazy to think it's been 31 years. It's time to look at it, compared to the way that the records have been completely altered by steroids. To look at
they have been really.
To look at the sign stealing scandal and everything that happened with that and how it was handled, and say, you know what, he's handled his punishment, he's taken it. Let's bring him back. Again, not saying he needs to manage again. He's been
Just
away
put
from
him in the Hall.
Exactly. Lift the ban, let him get in the Hall of Fame.
Don't let him. Okay, keep the
because here's the thing: he'll get in posthumously once he passes away. You don't want to sound morbid, but I have no doubt when he passes away, he's going to get in. Let's just cut the crap and let him get in. Lift the ban and let him get in.
Well, let's just say let's put him in the Hall of Fame, but keep him away from baseball. Like, keep him away from managing, keep him away from that aspect.
I don't even know if he could manage now anyway. I mean, he's been in that aspect, he's been away from the game for 31 years. The game is far more analytical now than it was in 89. So I don't think he could hang as a manager today as the same way he did then.
But no, not just as a manager, but let's say as an analyst too, because isn't the ban like he's not even to deal with baseball in general?
No, and he was given a reprieve. I want to say in '99 to take part in an anniversary of baseball at the All-Star game that year. I want to say '99, maybe 2000. If you're listening and you know off the top of your head, comment, correct me. I might be wrong. But he was given a reprieve for that one game to come out in the field with the greatest players of all time and then that was it. And I don't know. I think with what he contributed to the sport of baseball, he's not getting back from baseball now. I
Let him
wouldn't
in the
mind.
hall.
I wouldn't mind if he was an analyst. I'll say that. I think even if he's part of like a pregame show before the All-Star game, I'd be willing to listen to what he has to say about the game. Yep, that's my stance.
I mean, like I said, let him in the hall, but keep him away. If they try to come back and do the punishments like they have, well, you don't see Bonds, you don't see McGuire, you don't see Sosa anywhere near baseball anymore. You don't see that.
I'd have to check on McGuire because he was a hitting coach at one point.
Was he?
Yes.
Okay. Here's some steroids. That's how you hit. I mean, I just feel that.
It was in '99. It was for the All Century team. I had to look it up myself. Sorry.
Overachiever. But like I said, I just feel that they need to do something with the current scandals, with the current punishments. Like you said, the Astros got a slap on the wrist. Where stealing signs altered the game by far. I mean,
okay,
knows?
so the Astros went into the playoffs this year with the worst record out of all the teams that went into the playoffs. So keep that in mind. I mean, and had we not had the season we had and the extended playoffs we had, they weren't going into the playoffs this year.
No, they got lucky.
I mean, and granted, they had a heck of a run in the playoffs, but they still got a slap on the wrist. So going back to McGuire, he was last a coach for the Padres in 2018. So he's been away from the game for 2 years.
It's just one of those things to where it should be longer. Just because if Pete Rose got what he got, these guys should be like forever the same way. Away. The record should be taken away from them. And, not just put an asterisk next to it saying, they hit it because of this. It just needs to be gone. I mean, look what they did to Joe Paterno when they're in that whole scandal with Penn State. They took away all those wins.
They gave him back.
They gave him back, but what they should do is just to really give a really kick in the crotch for them. Take away all the home runs. What if they did that?
Well, a lot of people don't even consider those home runs anyway, so.
But still, I mean,
take them off the record books, go back to the way things were pre-'98. Yeah, I get what you're saying.
Exactly. So, I mean, why not do that? Why not get rid of, all those records that they hit? Because don't get me wrong, any person who was watching this, the Sosa McGuire runs during that year, the 1 year, that was a big thing. But then to find out they were, that they were on steroids.
And I mean, let's call it what it is. MLB looked the other way because they were getting massive ratings and people were watching.
Oh, it's all about the money.
Exactly.
That's all it is.
So at that moment in time, they knew and they didn't care.
No, they didn't. And just like now, it just seems like they don't care on, oh yeah, you can cheat, you can cheat stealing signs, but you can't gamble. Even though you're gambling on your team to win.
Which he should have gambled on his own team. Let's be fair. He should have gambled on his own team.
Should no, he shouldn't have.
I mean,
he shouldn't have.
That shows faith in your team, but Jesus.
Well, he knew the risk. He knew what was going on. He knew, I mean, he knew what he was doing. He knew the risk. He knew the direction he was going to go, but he still did it. So he had to do it. He had the balls to keep it up. So, either way you look at it, the Pete Rose scandal is one of the biggest double-edged swords ever, because a great baseball player, but yet he did the gambling.
He made a mistake. He's paid for it. By all accounts, I mean, he's still very full of himself. And I think that's what hurts him in the long run, is that he's very full of himself. I think if he would show some humility, I think it would go a long way to Major League Baseball softening their stance. But I think until then, they're never going to soften their stance.
No, I don't see them softening their stance at all. I don't see them doing that one bit, just because if you have the Astros getting just barely a slap on the wrist for stealing signs, not just stealing signs, but wasn't there in the World Series? So during a championship game, you're stealing, you're cheating to win. So, I mean, to me, I feel like they should have got way more than just a slap on the wrist during a World Series.
Yeah, no, I mean, what they got and what they should have gotten are obviously two different things. It's going to be stuff that baseball fans and sports fans are going to debate forever.
Oh yeah, just like people are probably still debating Pete Rose, just like what we're doing,
like we're doing right now. Yeah, I mean, there's at this point, there's no reason to not have him in the Hall of Fame, and I think he deserves to be in there. I mean, he's the hits leader, and he's the man. I don't know who's closest to him, but
yeah, I mean, it's like I said, put him in. I mean, put him in the Hall of Fame. Leave him out of the other aspects of baseball, and just leave him in. Put him in the Hall, but keep him out.
So
keep him out of like the management and all that.
So out of current players, the closest player to him is Albert Pujols, who's number 14 on the list. Now, we know at where Albert Pujols is in his current career, he's not catching up to Pete Rose.
No. I mean, if you look at all time right now, Ty Cobb is behind Pete Rose.
I mean, the closest modern player that I would say our audience has seen play would be Jeter.
Yeah.
And Jeter's number 6 on the list.
Yeah.
So I mean,
yeah, I mean,
it's going to be a long time before someone catches up to Pete, who's a current player. That record's going to be his for a long time.
Oh yeah, I mean, well, like we discussed last period, look at Gretzky with Ovechkin. I mean, Ovechkin trying to catch Gretzky, that's some of the record you have not seen even be an attempt to catch. This is going to be the same thing. Just like there's probably records in baseball that nobody's ever going to catch, like Wayne Gretzky's fastest to 50. No, you're not going to see that caught.
And now think about this. Rose has had that record for 35 years.
And it's going to be there for quite longer.
I have no doubt.
And the thing is, though, he didn't do it on steroids. He didn't do it cheating during the game.
No, he did it with hustle.
Exactly. He did it with pure determination. He was that type of player that would be so competitive that's how he got it. He didn't have to use steroids to up his game.
Right.
So who knows what's going to happen? I mean, it, like I said, put him in, get him out, of that slump to, like I said, keep out of management, put him in, put him in the Hall and be done with it.
Agreed.
I mean, how many teams did he play for?
The Reds. I'm just doing this off the top of my head. The Reds, the Phils, the Expos, and then the Reds again. Let me see if I'm correct here.
Well, at least he didn't.
Yep.
Was it those?
The Reds from 63 to 78, the Phils from 79 to 83, the Expos at 84, and then the Reds 84 to 86 as a player manager.
Reds. I don't know, just the Reds. It just seems like a funny name, but
The Red Stockings.
Right? Well, speaking of team names, this seems like a good time to end period 2 and move into period 3.
All right, here we go.
Which seems to be a lot of fan favorites. This time it's odd or wacky sports team names, which this can get very interesting on some of the names. Now, these names are, may not be like, let's say, major league teams, but let's just say these teams could be clubs that are not in any type of divisions. But just the names of them are like, well, why would you come up with that? Is what this really is.
So, in doing research on this topic, I can absolutely say far and away minor league baseball is the leader in wacky team names.
Yeah.
I mean, what is there? There's a team called the Baby Cakes after the King Cakes for New Orleans. There's the Jumbo Shrimp, the Beach Bums, the Biscuits, the Yard Goats.
The Rainbow Warriors of Hawaii. The Rainbow Warriors. I mean...
So now one of my favorites, and they're not a professional team, they're a collegiate, like, summer league. I love the Savannah Bananas. I think that's just a tremendous team name.
Oh, yeah.
I do. I think that's so great.
I mean, oh, by the way, your Iron Pigs are on the list.
Another great name, it's. I mean, if you're not in the area, you wouldn't get the name. And let's be, before we really even get into like the team name, they run with that whole pig concept. I mean, they have a day where they wear bacon hats and jerseys. I mean, they own it, and that's what a lot of these minor league teams do. I mean,
that's how they get people in. It's the promotion.
Yeah, it's the hats, it's the wackiness, it's all the good stuff.
Well, there's a team called the Lansing Lugnuts.
Okay, here.
Let's see, the Lugnuts, the Asheville Taurus. That's an interesting name. The Horned Frogs. They're from TCU. Yeah, it's just some of these names are just like, why? Or now here's one for you. It's a high school team out of Michigan. Waters Meet Nimrods.
Huh. Nice.
Yeah. So now, don't get me wrong. We don't, nobody promotes bullying, but I'm a Nimrod. Or a team called the Nuts. It's affiliate of the Colorado Rockies. Was it the Modestos? I think that's how you say it. Or I probably
Modesto?
butchered. Yeah, Modesto. I butchered that, didn't I? Big time. Wow. But wouldn't you love to be called the Nuts? Who do you play for? The Nuts.
And I believe it's a big peanut, is it not? That they're.
I believe so. I mean.
So going back to the Iron Pigs, because we kind of glanced over it. Pig iron is a term used in the making of steel, and the Lehigh Valley was once a steel area as far as the main jobs and manufacturing there. So that's why they're called the Iron Pigs. Just wanted to go back to that since I mentioned it, never got back to it.
Good old fun facts. So, but some of these names, I mean, even the high school names, I mean, the syrup makers out of Georgia.
Nice.
I mean,
what we had talked
Purple, the Central Purple Pounders.
Oh my.
Yeah.
One we had talked about earlier before we went on there was the Cedar Rapids Colonels, named after the corn.
Yep. No, not the military. It's the corn.
Yeah, their logo is not a KFC logo. It is a baseball bat that looks like a cob of corn, of all things.
Yep. Absolutely. Oh, and by the way, it was the Central Purple Pound is the Chattanooga Central Purple Pounders out of Tennessee.
That's a lot.
Yeah,
That is a wordy team name.
very much so.
So there is a team out of Connecticut called the Norwich Sea Unicorns. Do you know what a sea unicorn is? It's a frickin' narwhal. Why couldn't they just be the Norwich Narwhals? That sounds so much better than the Norwich Sea Unicorns.
It does.
Now, with that said, don't get me wrong. It is a tremendous logo. It might be one of the best minor league logos I've ever seen, just how cool it looks. But that being said,
yeah, I mean,
the narwhals just flows better than the sea unicorns.
I mean, some names, even the high school names. I mean, well, here's the thing though. Yeah, that's not. It looks like a narwhal because that's the thing. They should have just went with that. But I mean, don't get me wrong. The minor league teams is where minor league teams in baseball is where we normally see these odd names. Like let's say the Akron Rubber Duckies, the Rubber Ducks, the Akron Rubber Ducks. Don't get me wrong. The logo looks cool, but the name Rubber Ducks.
I want to say is Akron like the rubber duck? Like, is that where they make a lot of rubber ducks? Is that what it is? There's got to be a reason for that name.
Well, I mean, look at Illinois. The Hoopson area Corn Jerkers? It's a high school team. It's a high school team out of Illinois.
I don't want to touch that with a 50-foot pole.
I mean, why would you name your high school team that? I mean, come on.
So, before we go any further, Ohio listeners, because I know we have listeners in Ohio, reach out. Let us know why the Rubber Ducks are called the Rubber Ducks. Thank you.
I mean, yeah, some of these names, it's just like, why? How? I mean, how many times have we said, our press conversations with, let's say, when we had the food, with the stadium food, people got paid to do those. People get paid to make up these names. I mean, what, do they just throw a dart at a board and hope for the best? Were they drinking?
I'll have to research it because I'm a big reader of Uniwatch. And it's a sports website dedicated pretty much to sports jerseys and logos. And I think it's one company that's been doing a lot of these minor league baseball logos and designs. I think it's legitimately one company of two guys who are doing it.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I mean, I know there's a high school team out of West Virginia called the Polka Dots.
Yes. You know how I know this? Big deviation. So,
really?
In Mick Foley's first book. In Mick Foley's first book, Have a Nice Day, he was talking about his early days as a pro wrestler breaking in on the then fledgling independent circuit in the 80s, because it went from territories obviously to what it is today. In the days of the dying territories, there's also now independent wrestling. And he talks about going to the Polka Dots to work a show. And he made a point to talk about that their logo is a dot. So that's how as soon as you said that was the first thing that went into my head, is that he told a story about that.
Yeah, that's just, and the sad part is somebody got paid to make up that name. I just don't get it. I mean, it's just.
So I guess it's now called the Legends Football League. It used to be the Lingerie Football League. They have a team called the Mist. Yeah, my thoughts exactly. I don't. That is a bad name for a team in a football league known as being the Lingerie Football League.
Yeah.
There is a Patton Oswalt bit that name reminds me of.
Oh no.
And I don't want to talk about it right now because we have this listed as clean. So I don't want to go into it.
Yeah, that might be I mean, some of these names, yeah, like I just don't understand like how they come up with these names. Like the Binghamton Rumble Ponies.
I want to say that that's because is Binghamton home to the first carousel? Or they were once the leaders in manufacturing carousels? I think it has something to do with that. Don't quote me on that, but I think that's what it is.
I mean, you have the Akron Zips, which is a college team. The Zips. I mean,
Here's a good one. A collegiate team, the Santa Cruz Banana Slugs.
Campbell Fighting Camels. That's out of North Carolina.
Now, so one of these lists we've looked at, I take a little umbrage with. I don't think you should have Canadian football team names on there if you don't understand the reason for. If you don't understand the culture of the Canadian Football League and of those basically Canada in general. I just think it's, if you don't get it, you shouldn't have it on there. Just focus on U.S. teams and their wacky names, because what we might think's wacky for a Canadian football team name might have a lot of history. That's the only issue I take with it. I'm off my soapbox now.
For now. You got the Wichita Wingnuts.
I like that logo.
It is an interesting logo, but just to be named the Wingnuts. I mean, don't get me wrong. Unfortunately, the team did disband in 2018. But still, just the name of it just is
So one of them on the one list is the Beach Bums. And so the reason that I remembered that team name is I'm a regular reader of digitalballparks.com. And the Traverse City Beach Bums from the Frontier League. So they're an independent team. They have one of the nicest looking stadiums I've ever seen in baseball.
Interesting. Give
me a second and I'll send you for those listening, I will post a link of their ballpark in on the Facebook page and on Twitter. Definitely show some love to Digital Ballparks. It's a great site. The people who run it, they go to all these different ballparks. They get permission to take photos. They've done major league ballparks all the way down to amateur ballparks. So these people really care about what they're doing, and it's a great website, great place to reference.
Oh, and also a little side note here. The Akron Rubber Ducks, the name is reference to the Akron notable place in the rubber industry.
Oh, okay, cool. So I don't know if you can see this right now, David. So the outside of the stadium looks like a housing development.
Yes, it does. That is strange.
But now look at the inside of that stadium. Isn't that freaking beautiful?
Yeah, that is. That is shockingly beautiful. Interesting.
It is such a nice ballpark. So yeah, I'll put a link for the Digital Ballparks section for the Traverse City Beach Bums stadium. Let you guys take a look at it so you know what we're talking about when you're listening to this. Yeah, far and away, minor league baseball and independent baseball have a lock on the most wacky team names and logos.
Well, there's a Thailand soccer team name. Well, they call it football. The Thailand Tobacco Monopoly.
That's interesting.
Tobacco Monopoly, the Thailand Tobacco Monopoly Football Club.
Oh, okay. So they began as a work team for the company and then became a professional team in '96.
Yeah.
Interesting.
But the fact, though, that it's just that long of a name,
Right.
you know.
That's a pretty cool story. I'm gonna have to look more into them and see. Let's see. It shows they were established in '64, so that means from '64 to '96 they were just amateur playing. That's pretty cool. I might have to do some more research on them. I'm glad you mentioned that.
Just the Richmond Flying Squirrels.
Another good one. Oh, here's another corn one. In the Frontier League, the Normal Corn Belters. And
Interesting.
it's another corn cob logo.
Yeah, that's just.
And why does the corn cob look stoned?
Yes, he does. Yes, he does.
Yet again, this will be on the Facebook page and social media for you guys and gals who listen to check out.
Yeah, that definitely Cora Cup. Definitely, he looks stoned. I mean, you have well, there's the Fort Wayne Mad Ants. They're based out of Fort Wayne, Indiana.
Okay.
But what team you play for? The Mad Ants. Okay. Well, the New Orleans Baby Cakes. I just don't understand that.
I think when it comes to, and I think the reason why minor league baseball has so many wacky names is a lot of minor league baseball teams let the fans pick the name.
And also probably to maybe get an attraction into the area, get people into the stadiums.
And a lot of them, I mean, they have ties to the local area. I mean, the rail riders in Scranton-Wilkes-Barre are because of the old rail cars that ran through the cities. I think a lot of these have, city history, town history, and the fact that a lot of the times the fans name the teams. Yeah, I think there's a big reason why that is the way it is in minor league baseball. Because you don't see other sports minor league teams having weird names.
Yeah, I mean, the names are definitely interesting on how they, like you said, they have the fans pick them because, like, if they're a team just coming about, then yeah, you gotta try to get people into the stands. So it's just definitely interesting on how they actually do it. Like let's say the Evansville Purple Aces, the Mud Hens. It's just it's just neat to see, like, one, what they come up with, and two, how far can they go?
Right.
Sort of like just the whole, just everything that we've gone, everyone's that we named, from the polka dots to the Colonels.
I love that logo though. I think the corn cob baseball bat logo is pretty cool compared to the stone corn cob of the corn
right?
belters from Normal.
Right.
Yeah, even looking at old football leagues, I don't see any weird names like that stick out the way that minor league baseball does. I mean, there's obviously college teams, and we've kind of referenced some of them. Man, you don't see it in other sports. It's just minor league baseball.
Yeah, minor league baseball, like you said, does have that little tight grip on it to actually, hey, let's come up with the craziest names to come up with, and the thing is, though, just try to, okay, you have a name. Now it's the marketing people who have to come up with a logo.
Yeah.
And then market that. I mean, some of these names, how can some of these people market that with a straight face?
I mean, let's go real deep into Hershey Bears history. They used to be the Hershey Bars.
I wonder why.
Right. But eventually,
yeah,
obviously, eventually they became the Bears. But they never did, we'd be talking about the Hershey Bars right now as a hockey team, not just a candy. So
Yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, it's that was ages ago compared to what it is now.
yeah,
You know, so it's just there's a lot of history, with the names but just some of the like how they came up with it's just I don't know. It's just one of those things where you just have to laugh. Just have to laugh profusely at it.
but you know what? Some of these, I mean, and the logos are great. I mean,
Oh yeah,
even the wackiest team has a cool logo.
yeah. Because I think you kind of have to. It's not that like okay, you got to come up with a name, but you got to come up with a killer logo.
Yeah.
Not just something. Oh, let's just throw out something and hope for the best. Well, the high school in Indiana, it's the Frankfurt hot dogs.
That's awesome. That's
And literally,
awesome.
it's and the logo is a ferocious wiener dog.
That's tremendous.
If you look at a wiener dog, what's the first thing you're going to look at? Oh, how cute. You're not going to think of something ferocious. Well, let's go back to the minor league baseball, the Hartford Yard Goats. Just a goat eating a baseball bat. But still
Yeah.
the logo fits. It's just some of these are just wild.
They are, but I mean, they're wild enough that we're here talking about them right now. So
Yeah, sort of like in Georgia, it's the syrup makers, and
another
it's just basically the logo is syrup makers with a kettle of or a pitcher of syrup. Let's see here, high school in Minnesota, the Blooming Prairie, was it the Blooming Prairie Awesome Blossoms?
That's interesting.
Yeah, I mean, you see two names, and then you get some like that are like 4 or 5 names, like the University of Arkansas at Monticello Bowl. What was it? Bowl. Wheels. Yeah, some of these names are just hard to say. I know I'm not good at pronouncing some of these names. I'll say it right now.
Oh, University of Arkansas at Monticello Boll Weevils. The
Yeah,
Boll
there you go.
Weevils.
I mean, say that 5 times fast. Go ahead.
No.
Exactly.
But yeah, I mean, and here's the thing. Going back to the whole minor league baseball end of it, it gets these teams revenue. People buy the new hats. People buy the shirts. Most of them are family friendly, so it gets the parents to bring the kids see the logo and they want to see what it's about. It all is a win-win for the teams.
Well, not just the teams, but with the communities as well. Not just the teams, but just that alone, just getting people in there, because that's the whole thing of it. You got to get a minor league team in there, because if you don't get people in there, you're not going to have a team to begin with. And then if you have a team to begin with, then the pros won't have a minor league team to for players to call up. So to come up with these goofy names is a way to do it.
And you know what? It definitely helps in that whole community feel of the fans and the team too, because the fans get invested, and then it's not just the team against whomever. It's everyone. Everyone is a flying squirrel going against the Harrisburg Senators. Everyone is a wingnut against the Mud Hens.
Oh yeah. Was it the Altoona Curves?
Yeah, named after a curve, a literal curve in the road.
Yeah, pretty much. So I mean, just some of these names, oh look, there's oh look, a curve. Hey, there's a name for a baseball team.
Yep.
Like what?
But I mean, thank goodness. I mean, it makes the game fun. Let's be honest. It makes the game fun. It leads to cool mascots, cool logos.
Oh
I
yeah.
love it.
Oh yeah. I mean, it is awesome. Well, it's like, yeah, hey, well, where are you going? I'm going to a Mudheads game. A what?
Well, and if you're from the area, you obviously know what a mudhead is. So
Yeah. But if you're not, then it's kind of like,
what the heck are you talking about? What is a
right?
mudhead?
Fort Wayne Tin Cups. Where are you going to see? I'm going to a Tin Cups game. Yeah, it's just if you're local, yeah, you know it. But if you're not, it's just okay. What's this Tin Cup thing here? Let's go see what that's about. It's an attraction.
Yep.
But yeah, it is awesome to see these names, to see these, just the logos and what they can come up with.
Yeah.
I just wish I was young enough to be a part of all these names, getting these marketing things, to get into marketing, and they come up with these crazy names and get paid for them.
Definitely.
See how much money you'd be making.
Not near enough.
Not true. But still, it'd be neat. Hey, what do you do? I just make goofy names.
I come up with weird logos and designs for minor league sports teams.
But you get paid doing it.
That's right.
So, well, that's the end of period 3. So I hope you all enjoyed this.
As always, this was fun.
Oh yeah, especially with these weird names and with the scandals and everything else, and our little pregame that we had.
Well, thank you for joining us for episode 7 of the Not Another Sports Podcast. You can find us online at facebook.com/notanothersportspod. Please feel free to like, comment, message, interact with us. This is why we have the Facebook page. Give us your ideas for third periods. Tell us what you think after listening to the show. The Not Another Sports Podcast is available for streaming or download at anchor.fm, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, Podcast Addict, and wherever else you get your podcasts. Please do not forget to subscribe, rate, and review. With that, I'm Jason.
I'm David.
We'll talk to you next time.
Have a good one.
You have been listening to the Not Another Sports Podcast. Thank you for your listenership.